Welcome back to the Best Advice podcast. This week we are joined by Trish Gregory and Fraser. You're back.
I'm back.
He's come back. Come back.
We lost him. We lost him last week.
Apologies.
Trish, we'll get into knowing you a bit more. But before we get into that, what's the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Good question. And I appreciate that you gave me this question ahead of time, because I really had to think about what's something that's really stuck with me. And there's a story that I tell every now and again that I bring up, especially when people are complaining. We had this last night, had an awards night last night, and someone was complaining about oh my gosh, I'm almost, I'm 39, I'm going to be so old. And I was like, just wait, 40s are awesome. The 40s are great. Don't stress about it. And that all comes back to these sort of two moments sort of coalesce. So first of all, when one of my cousins was born severely disabled, ended up in a wheelchair, was nonverbal, very happy young child, passed away when she was about 7 years old, right? So very tragic. The only cousin I've had that's passed away so far. And then a couple of years later, I was on a train going from Wollongong to Sydney with my grandmother and her friends. And I was early 20s, and my grandmother and her friends were sort of in their 70s. And we were having this lovely conversation. I was probably saying the same things oh, I'm so old, life is so hard in your mid-20s. But they were talking to me about how much of a privilege it is to have a birthday, to be alive, to be in their 70s and having fun and going out and doing all these wonderful things. And my grandma was an incredibly active person right up until she passed away. And those sort of two moments really put it into stark contrast with me. We shouldn't complain there, but for the grace of whatever you believe in, I would pass away at 7 years old and be severely disabled forever. And so then, when I think about it, I go, yeah, it is such a privilege to get to 70. It is such a privilege to get to 80. All it takes is one bad day and that's it. That's life over. So that is sort of the piece of advice that's really, really stuck with me is, yes, I am very lucky to age. Yes, I am very lucky to get crow's feet. Yes, I am very lucky to do all of these sorts of things, because it means that I'm still around. I'm still alive. I'm still experiencing life. And hopefully I'll get to my 70s, I'll get to my 80s, I'll get to my 90s. Who knows? I might even get to my 100s. So when people say, oh, I'm getting so old, and I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. I'm so, everyone, when you pretend about your birthday, you're like, oh no, I'll shave a few years off. I'm like, yes, I'm 42. I'm very proud of that fact. I've done 42 years of life. It's fantastic.
I love the concept of calling it levels. Level 42.
Oh, yes.
42 is, to get back to wwhatever you believe in, the meaning of life, the universe and everything. So
Exactly. I only just realized that my kid, one of my kids said that to me on my birthday. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Why didn't we do that for Daddy's birthday? But anyway, yes, I am this is the year of the meaning of life and everything.
I got a t-shirt. I still wear it every now and again. I got a t-shirt, 42 on it.
It's a pretty good bit of advice, isn't it? The concept of life's a privilege and you're just lucky to be waking up. Yeah, one of my mates used to say, and this probably comes from the advice from his father was, and bearing in mind he was a male, he goes, his dad used to say to him, you're a white male born in Australia. You already won the freaking lottery. What have you ever got to complain about ever in your life when you born into a country that's got this prosper and, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's a waking up.
And so how does that play out for you on a day-to-day basis? Is it something you actively think about, or is it a...
No, not something I actively think about. I ebb and flow. Look, I have 3 young-ish children, so let's not say that life is easy. There's the privilege, obviously, of being a white person in Australia, but then there's also the hard thing of having 3 children, frankly, is exhausting whilst being employed. So no, I don't think it really impacts me on a day-to-day basis beyond the fact that I really try and look at the good things in life where possible, or I, snap myself out of a moment where life might be a bit hard and go, it's fine, it'll pass. I think some of the joy of getting older is that you realize that there's these seasons in life and there's really hard moments and there's really challenging moments, and then they pass, much like the share market. It has its ups and its downs, and then it goes back up and life is fine. So I think for me, it just keeps me smiling really and keeps me looking at some of the positive things in life, or just going, yes, this is a season and this will be over and then something more awesome will happen. But then I also do, I was listening to Alistair's episode and he was talking about how he looks forward to think about when I'm 80, what will I look back and regret? And I really do have that as well. I think, how will 80-year-old me be happy with the choices that I've made? Or will I regret those choices? And definitely not to say that I do anything perfectly. Frankly, I do a lot of things that I feel like I would regret, but I do try to really push that and go, okay, am I going to remember this when I'm 80? Is this going to be one of those things that I care about? If not, then just go and do it, or don't do it, or stress about it, or don't stress about it. I find that to be quite a helpful thing.
So I was going to ask you a question about how you actually draw yourself out of being in the first chair and understanding that stuff's on and around you and on top of you and doing stuff around you all the time to be able to pull yourself out and then appreciate this type of advice or information. But I was going to ask you that question, but I'll move past that and we'll come back to it. I want to talk to you about the fact that because you just mentioned the fact that when you get old, so imagine that you're the grandmother of your kids and you're hanging out with your friends at the awards ceremony, the next awards ceremony, and you're giving advice to your grandkids. Is this the sort of same thing you would say to them? Anything to add to it?
What would I give to well, I hope I'm lucky enough to have grandchildren, although I hope I put no pressure on my children to have children. They are young, but they do say, oh yeah, I'm going to have 20 kids. Oh yeah, I'm going to have one kid. And I'm like, just someone has to have one at least, hopefully. Yeah, I think I will try to, I will probably, ideally, my goal is take them to places to expand their perspective, because I find that living in a very safe place in Australia, like I live in Canberra, it's very, very safe. Very, very privileged. And at the moment, my kids think that is the normal. That is the everyday. The streets are good. The streets are clean. Occasionally we walk past someone who smokes a cigarette and they go, oh, a cigarette. Yep, that stinks. And so especially for my grandchildren, when I think I'm retired and I have time and I will have already set myself up financially beautifully as I'm on my way to do, I would love to take my children and my grandchildren to places in the world that don't speak English, that may not necessarily have privilege, and just give them perspective. Because I think in life, having perspective is such a privilege and so important for then reminding yourself that it's not that bad. When bad things happen, it's not that bad. I'm still, living in a home. I'm currently in a very comfortable hotel room, going to an awards night that I absolutely didn't have to go to, but wanted to and could. I live in a house with clean running water and I can get all the fresh food that I want. And we have chickens and bees and like all of these beautiful things. And I think because I have had these conversations with my grandma, I have had, some tragedy in life, and I have lived in other places that don't speak English and have different levels of, different levels of living standards. It does help to sort of, snap me back out and go, oh yes, actually things are fine. And I think that not so much the talking, but the seeing is probably more important for kids. I'm sure that conversation with my grandmother didn't just happen once and that was it. I'm sure that was as a result of me living overseas and as a result of me seeing different, levels of living standards that sort of all connected to get to this point where I go, that is a pivotal moment in my life. So yeah, rather than just tell my kids one thing, I'd much prefer to show them my grandkids, all millions of them that I have.
I love this concept of expanding their perspective. I saw a piece of content recently. I think it was probably LinkedIn. I don't know. It was one of the channels. And it was about a father who was taking his daughter on an overseas trip. And, you could go anywhere you want. You design it. You've got to work it out. I'll come with you. But the rule was the daughter, I think was like, 11 or 12 or something, had to have all the conversations, ordering, booking into the hotels, asking for this, asking for that, because she was shy. So it was his way of providing a safe environment to expand the comfort zone, so that then in the future, the ability to, again, expanding that perspective. So if you want tomato sauce with your fries, you can ask for tomato sauce. And, I love that concept. Again,
Exactly.
I wish I'd thought of it earlier.
My dad gets given a handful of coins at the beginning of a trip, and that's he has this mission to hand out the coins to beggars on the street and have conversations with them. We have to give him a handful of coins because otherwise he would give away all the money in the world probably. But that's his way of doing similar. He had a hard early life, but has been very privileged since he got to Australia in the way his life has played out, and that's his way of connecting with his luck, is to try and give back in that way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think it's sort of what you talked about, Fraser, was that it's that L plate, P plate, get through to full license. You can't, I think with the kids, we can't have them go from me or their parent, doing everything for them to then sending them out into the universe and going, you'll be fine, when they've actually never practiced how to talk to people, we used to have, the corded telephones, and the children would answer and they'd have to say, Gregory residence, or they'd say the phone number, and it was just something that we all did. But now kids don't have to do that. They don't have to talk. They can just text. They can use Messenger Kids. And I do the same. I do try and force my kids to have the conversations. And I'm like, if you want it, that's fine. I'll stand next to you, but I'm not talking. You got it. You can do it. Poor darlings.
Yep. The old safe environment, go forth, have a crack. Nothing's going to go wrong here.
Yeah. If it goes wrong, it's okay because you're just in a car park or you're just with your mum.
Yeah. Now you talked about family members, but coming, your advice and your career and all those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Have you had moments where people have said things to you that have really resonated for good, good things or bad things? Don't do this throughout your career that sort of helped shape you and who you are today?
I've seen, I don't know about things that people have said. So there is one that I'm thinking of, so I'm a financial advisor that does. I do like to work to my values. I feel really uncomfortable if I am doing work that really sits outside what I feel is the right thing to do for me. And really early on in my career, I had a colleague who said to me, we used to have quite a variety of choice from an investment perspective. And I'm definitely an ETF kind of gal. Love them, especially for the majority of people. But we also had choices for, an MDA and SMA, those sorts of things. And this person that I was working with, they said, well, I have to put the clients into the MDA because otherwise at my reviews, what will we talk about? And I remember being quite struck by that, thinking, if that's the only thing you're talking about, then what is your value as a financial advisor? And that has certainly stuck with me of like, what is the value of a financial advisor? And for me, it's about the guidance and the support. And especially these days with AI and ChatGPT and those sorts of things, like people can get answers very easily, but whether they stick to them and whether they hold to them and whether they choose the right, make the right decision, it all comes down to the professional holding their hand and steering them in the right direction. And I think that very, very early comment just really made me go, no, like I am on a different path. I am looking for this type of role where I can hold true to my values and do the best thing for people. And yeah, we'll talk about investments for 20 seconds in a meeting. And the rest of the time it's about you and your life and what you want to do. And through all of those things, I end up uncovering the really important factors in people's lives and the real drivers to be able to help them out more than buy a property, get some investments, full stop.
When you did that work on understanding your value, was that a piece of work that you did? And if so, how did you go about it?
No, not a piece of work I did. I'm fortunate that I came into financial advice in my mid-30s. So I had built up my values sort of accidentally, sort of not. I mean, my mum was always kind of a hippie. Now looking back, I go, yes, actually, we are quite alike. She was a very outspoken advocate for breastfeeding and for women's rights and those sorts of things. And then my very first mothers group with my first child were also very feminist, outspoken women. And I think these people, without me realizing, sort of shaped the type of values that I have and the type of person that I want to be, one that helps and one that supports, and one that gives and really lifts other people up. And then I think obviously those values have just sort of stuck around. And so when I've been in situations where it's had to, it's not aligned with my values, I certainly felt that and really found it hard to continue to work in that environment because it just feels so wrong. And I can do it for a short period of time, but I'm also very aware of how easy it is to have your values and your beliefs and your ethics slip when you sit somewhere for too long. I remember I worked in the public service very, very briefly, and the guy who was training me, I was always a very efficient person. And this guy who was training me, he goes, all right, so we need to photocopy these 5 pieces of paper for our check boxes. And so he said, all right, so we pick up one piece of paper and we walk over to the photocopier and we make 50 copies. And then we walk back to our desk. And then we pick up the second piece of paper and we walk to our desk and we make 50 photocopies and we walk back to our desk. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die with this inefficiency of just like wasting time. And in that very short space of time that I was in the role in the public service, everyone's going, oh my God, you're doing so much. But I could feel myself going, oh, it's not important. I'll leave it. These people don't have to deal with it. I'm going, no, I can't have this level of just getting bored and slowing down and not being efficient and not worrying about other people. That is not my vibe. That's probably one of those moments where I go, I know that I can fall down that rabbit hole. And I don't want to. So no, it hasn't been deliberate, but I have overall feel like my career in financial advice has been trying to find the right place for me and my values, and somewhere where I feel comfortable holding my ethics and doing what's right.
Is that why you came to advice? Because that felt like a better fit to start living some of that out compared to the public service and some of the other things you had before? Or was it an accident like some of the rest of us?
It was intentional, sort of intentional trying to get to financial advice. The reason I got into financial advice is because when my partner was in the military and he was medically discharged, so had to leave the military due to medical reasons, we then swapped roles. So I became the working parent, employed parent. He became the stay-at-home parent. And when I was looking for what to do after being on 4.5 years of parental leave, I realized that I didn't particularly want to do a job that was just a job and take me away from my babies. And my partner said, can you go do something with money? Because you talk about it all the time and I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like, I'm not a money person. I was like, all right, cool. Let's study financial advice, I guess. Yeah.
Go and get your fill of money conversations away from me.
Away from me. Go away. I don't want to hear about your latest money fun thing, investment, blah, blah, blah. So that's sort of how it happened.
Has it helped?
Has it helped? Yes. Although he does then, when I tell him stories about what's going on, he sort of smiles and nods. But now he's starting to become a lawyer.
It sounds like you're giving him all the credit, by the way. Just, like it's completely, thanks, Harley. You did it. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Although now I can understand where he's coming from because now he's just finished studying to be a lawyer and he's looking for his first job. And when he talks about the law stuff, I sort of go, oh my gosh, yep, smile and nod, don't understand it, don't care. It sounds so boring. So I get it.
That was my whole childhood. And now what do I bloody do?
I'm so hopeful one of my children will follow in my footsteps and do something, be a financial advisor or something like that. I'm priming them.
So finding out that obviously what you don't resonate with is a pretty good skill to, and making sure that you recognize if something is not comfortable, then doing that. But I think also what you've managed to do, knowing you for quite some time and following your career, is that if something wasn't quite right, you actually moved and found another way to find the right spot. So it's not like all of financial advice is perfect and other professions aren't. Let's be real. There are places, and one of the first things I met you had young children at a conference, as your mum would have loved, breastfeeding your children at a conference. And some people were like, "Oh, you can't do that," because they were still stuck in 1930. And so, it's not perfect, but you've had to find your path in amongst the trees.
Yes, I think that comes down to, I'm fortunate that I came into financial advice with a level of confidence about being a parent, because that was my third child that I took to a conference when he was 3.5 months old. And if it had to be my first child, very, very different. Whereas by the time I got to my third child, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I know what's right. I know what I'm allowed to do. And I'm just going to do it regardless of what people think, which I find is quite helpful. I also know that there's that whole you need to see it to be it vibe. And with only 20% of people 20% of financial advisors being women, there's not enough of us. And it's also with the majority of the financial advice firms being run by men, they don't necessarily understand the struggles of working and breastfeeding, or, having been the primary parent for quite a while. And so I did try to be quite vocal about parental leave and, the rights of women, and really, really pushing women up to make sure that I was quite visible, because I was comfortable being visible and talking about these things. And I had, throughout that period, especially when Felix, my third, was young, I had quite a lot of people, a lot of women message me privately and say, thank you so much for saying that, saying thank you so much for being visible. It really helps. It makes me feel like, maybe I can ask for parental leave, or I can ask for a more flexible role, or I can take my child to this conference, because I had the guts to just go, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. You're not going to stop me. Don't try and stop me. Because why wouldn't you support women? Do you not understand how difficult it is? I think about one of my proudest moments actually in this profession is I was at some sort of round table, and my dear friend Jenny had said, yeah, of course you should go to the round table. You have something to say. Even though at that point I was like, oh, I don't know what I have to say about this topic. But I went anyway. And then I met Christine Cupit, the CEO of CALI, Council of Australian Life Insurers. She was also on the panel. And something I said on that round table resonated with her. She reached out to me and she said, give me your opinion on women and insurance. So I gave her my opinion, because I'm very happy to talk, as you may have noticed. And off the back of that conversation, at the end, she said, what's one thing you would love for, that would be very helpful to women? And I said, I would love for you to give money to women to go to things like Congress, because the FAAA Congress is wonderful. It's an amazing thing. It is not cheap, though. It is quite expensive. And I said to her, look, the reality is that for women, the employer may cover the cost of going to Congress, but who's paying for the childcare, or who's flying their partner over so that they can look after their little child? Like, I really want a scholarship that is just money that's available for how the woman best needs to spend it. And credit to her, she went, great idea, took it off to her team, did it. And so now there's this annual scholarship, 5 scholarships every year for women, for money that they need in whatever way they need it, to go to support them to go to Congress and make the connections and learn new things and network and have an amazing time. And I'm so proud of that. And that's just because I was willing to speak up and say what's on my mind.
You mentioned earlier not being comfortable with some of the investment decisions and way people were sort of suggesting to invest. I know you've also moved into a different part of advice and providing advice on a different part of the advice product set than what most other people do. How did you move to make the decision that you were going to move away from traditional holistic advice into the life insurance advice that you're doing now?
I love holistic advice. I really love the coaching and the ongoing helping people improve and changing their mindset sort of vibe of financial advice. I would definitely not say I'm the most skilled at investment selection or anything like that. Like I said, I'm an ETF gal. And when I was finding throughout my career that as a holistic financial advisor, there's so much that you need to be on top of and aware of. And I was finding that I was feeling quite stretched with needing to know all these things and wanting to go deep dive and understand everything more, but just not having the time or capacity. I'm not a 70-hour-a-week girly. I'm a 38 to 40-hour-a-week girly. I have life and pets and, fun and things like that. So when I was looking for when I was looking to move from my previous employer, I was really fortunate that my now employer, Catherine Hayes, who runs her own business, Hayes & Co. Insurance, she heard that I was looking and she said, you know what, I think you'd really love insurance. I understand that you probably think it's the worst thing in the world because it is the most annoying part of holistic financial advice when you do all of it. But she said, but I promise you, you will love it and you won't regret moving to doing insurance only. I was like, oh, well, let's give it a shot. Why not? I know how important insurance is. I've had 3 people in my family become totally and permanently disabled. The reason my partner was able to be a stay-at-home parent for 10 years is because he had like a part military pension. That's how we were comfortable enough to have child number 3 and buy a home, all those things. So he's very important to me personally. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's give it a shot. I can still work from home. I'm working with a wonderful employer. And although I miss parts of holistic financial advice, and I still love holistic financial advice, from a lifestyle perspective, I find that niching is better because I get to have the time to go so much deeper into the product and understand the nuance and make sure that I'm doing the absolute best for every single client because I have the time to do that. I love that. That is wonderful. And my boss is 100% right. I love insurance. I talk about it all the time now. I'm very, very happy where I am. There's not many of us. I think it's less than 300 or 400 people in all of advice that write more than 50% of the insurance. So there's very few of us. So, and then when you think about only 20% of advisors are women, then there's a lot less, or like 80 or 60 or something people who are actually women who write the majority of the insurance advice. So although it wasn't an intentional move, it was why not? Let's give this a go. I definitely align with it. And it's very, very good on the values in a lot of different ways. So I find when I first moved to insurance, I was, number one, quite shocked at how easy it is when you niche. That I loved because it was always such a hard part of advice. And now I'm just like, oh my God, we have a great process. We have a great team. I can just help people and not be, bashing my head against a wall at bloody insurers and bloody doctors and bloody underwriters and all those sorts of things. And then I also really love how for people who aren't comfortable getting advice, but they know they need to do insurance, they might come to me. And then I can look at their situation and go, oh, actually, I think you should go and see someone about your super or your investments, or you're almost paid out in your debt. What are you going to do next? Or send them to someone like a money coach. And I find that because they trust me with their insurance, they then trust my referral to, these might be 3 people that are really good for you that I would trust. So I get to spread the love around as well and fit my clients with other advisors or coaches or things like that. And I love being able to do that, to just say, this person will be great for you. That person will be great for you. No, you don't need this complex advice. You probably just need that person that does one-off advice. And they trust that, which is lovely. So I enjoy being able to throw the love around a lot. I enjoy being able to help people and get deep into the weeds. Look, I've learned so much about medical conditions. That's a lot of fun. And then, I get to help people and then off they go. And hopefully I never see them again because hopefully they're well enough to never need to claim.
It's funny you put it that way because I came from science and I never found life insurance when I was planning, and that would have probably been fairly a good niche for me. Actually, now I think about it, like the combination of medicine and terms and conditions and policy
you
stuff.
do end up doing a lot of research into medical terms and conditions and understanding things, especially at claim time. Yeah.
My science degree might have come into use.
You could just pivot then. Start becoming an insurance advisor. Get rid of all that consulting stuff.
Where I'd find the time. It's a good problem to have. So getting back to the best advice from your grandmother and then the conversations you're probably having with your clients when you're doing holistic advice around their investments and what's the life you want to live. How did you find the transition to what's the life we want to protect different, or is that a different way of thinking about things? Is that a different conversation that ends up coming out?
I mean, definitely, people tend to get a bit sad in our first meeting because I'm talking about, well, what happens if you die? Who's going to do things with the kids? But then it's different for me, definitely, because when you're planning for the future and you're planning for all these amazing goals that people have, it's keeping them accountable, making sure that they're doing what they say, setting them up within the structures, and then coaching them to continue to do the amazing things even when stuff is hard. Whereas now there's definitely less coaching, but probably the same level of reassurance. Like I help people feel really comfortable. Like most people who come to me say, oh, it's been on my to-do list for a year or 5 years, and I know I need to get it done. And especially if they have some complex medical situations where they may be like borderline not being able to get insurance, I love being able to solve that problem for them. And I know personally that, once I got my insurance in place, it's just this little thing that sits at the back that you don't really notice, but it's always there of, oh, I really should, because what if? And then once you get insurance in place, and therefore the what if, you already know the what if, you know what's going to happen if something goes bad, that little bit of weight is taken off their shoulders and they just feel much more confident. So it's very different, holistic to insurance advice, but I still get a great lot of joy out of it because I know I've seen what happens when people don't have insurance, and I've seen what happens when people do have insurance. And I want to make sure that everyone's future is okay and they can still do the wonderful things in life that they're planning for.
I want to ask you just a little bit about your advice to, I think all of us here at Career Switches, but, to grow our profession and to get more women into our profession, it's about getting probably students through, but also a lot of career switches. So if you're speaking to somebody in a circle of friends or whatever it might be about getting into advice, what advice are you giving to them about what the work you do and why they should join?
Oh, I say if you are someone who cares, if you have that sort of caring mentality, I think this is a fantastic job where you really get to hold people's hand on the journey of making a better life for themselves. And you can really, I find, especially having been a planner for a while now, like you can see into the future with what people are doing and where they'll end up. But I say to people, look, it can be incredibly flexible. It can be incredibly rewarding. You're well paid. Like these are all huge ticks. The only thing is you need to find the right employer. And so in my circles of beautiful, wonderful ladies, if we have new women up and coming and asking us their opinion, we certainly steer them towards and away from certain employers, because we've all experienced it, employers that have really shaken our belief about the financial advice industry and about whether it is a nice place to be. But we know there's plenty of amazing people out there. We just, sometimes nudge people in a certain direction or away from a certain direction because we know that, if they go to that place, they might get burnt out and then they'll leave altogether. And that's not ideal because there's so many amazing people who want really good financial advisors. I also tell them, look, there's not enough of us. So it's a great time to get in because there's not a lot of competition and everyone will want you if you're like half competent and have a brain on you, especially for career switches. Like I think I like that I came into financial advice in my mid-30s and had already worked a number of different jobs. I'd already lived half of a life. So I'm able to bring that perspective into advice, especially for people who, are thinking about having children or have little children. I can sort of give them advice around it does get better. This is the hard time. It is okay. Yes, you are not going crazy. And helping them plan for those sorts of things. But yeah, for anyone who's thinking about joining, gosh, it is a wonderful profession. It's not perfect, but if you can find somewhere that aligns with your values and the way that you want to live, it's great. It's so good. I wish more people would do financial advice because I love it so much. You may be able to tell.
I wrote down your slogans as you were saying that sentence. So I've written down, if you care, this is your career. We just need to find your right pairs, and then something around the word scarcity. So I will work on it. We'll get there.
We can workshop that.
Work in progress. We can workshop it.
Love it.
So getting back to best advice, when you are having these conversations with these new entrants and women coming through and trying to help and support them, is there advice outside the just keep going, this is all going to be amazing for you? What are your best pieces of advice that you are giving people?
Go to the physical things. That's what I say to people. Every woman that I talk to lately, especially, I said, have you joined the Inspire group in your area? So the FAAA Inspire is supporting women in financial advice. And I say it's so important to go and meet the people and talk to the people and be in the room with the people, because I find that when you're in the room with people, you have those little side conversations. You can listen in, join in other conversations. And everyone that I know is so willing to help. If someone is having a really hard time, like I've had many people talk to me about their hard time, I'm like, all right, who can I connect you with to help you? If I can't help you, I know this person in your area or this person in your area. And then the little network goes out and can help and connect in the right way, because all of us just want to help. We want people to be happy in this industry. We want people to stay and to help more Australians. So I think the biggest thing is go to the physical catch-ups, the physical meetups. And if you want to go the next level, volunteer in your local FAAA chapter or be on one of the FAAA working committees or whatever, industry body you'd prefer to be a part of. I have found that throughout my life. Volunteering at the things really helps me because I get to know people better. People get to know me better. It avoids a bit of that awkward, I'm just standing here and I don't know anyone and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like when you're volunteering, you go, I've got something to do. And then you have to be really pleasant and meet people and introduce people to other people, and it just builds. And the other thing is connect with people on LinkedIn. Yeah, probably the two big ones I would say for women.
I really like the idea of, I've spent a lot of time in parts of committees and doing that. And I think you actually, and it's a bit of time and effort and work and all those sorts of things, which is great, but you always get way more out of it than the time and effort you're putting in.
I agree, 100% agree. And it's great for the introverts as well.
I was just saying I've ended up building a whole career on it. I'm not sure it helps my awkwardness at standing in the background and that somebody will come talk to me, but 100% agree with the volunteering bit and how much more you get out of it than just turning up and being there, the connections, the opportunities, the way it evolves your career and your network and how things grow is definitely worth the small price of admission that you sometimes have to pay for some of those things.
Absolutely.
I really like the concept too of, showing up, be there, be in the room, just show up and go,
Yep.
What expect very little and walk away with something that's outweighed your expectations.
That's right. I find that when I go to new places, it's good now because I know quite a few people in the room. But even if I do, sometimes, I'm like, all right, where's someone who's standing alone? And I'm just going to go up and say, hi, random stranger. Lovely to meet you. I'm Trish. Who are you? I'm also alone. Let's have a chat. Which, everyone is sort of standing there awkwardly going, I don't know anyone. What should I do? I don't want to join any groups, and because we're always so scared of being rejected, or maybe that's just me. But yeah, single out someone by themselves, meet some lovely people.
That is very true.
Yep. Push yourself outside that comfort zone.
Yes.
Make everyone else feel welcome.
Yes.
Are there any other bits of wisdom you like to leave people with?
Be an insurance advisor. It's awesome. You don't understand how awesome it is until you become an insurance advisor and you go, yeah, this is fantastic.
It is.
No.
Given all the negativity around life insurance advice that's broadly out there, it is refreshing to see yourself and Catherine and, people like Phil and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but the MBS, the MBS guys out there talking about their life insurance processes and how they're actually making it work and how well it actually is working for everybody. It's very refreshing to see everybody out there talking about it and sharing their knowledge and experience and trying to build that up more, because it's, to your point, like when you don't have it, or when you have the default stuff that just doesn't work when you actually need it or isn't anywhere near enough, the impact on you can be catastrophic. So,
yep, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for caring. Thank you for caring. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on the podcast and telling us your wisdom in your 40-something level. Really appreciate your showing up and having a chat with everybody. And we wish you a wonderful year ahead.
Thank you too. It's always a joy to have a chat with both of you. You're such wonderful people. The people that I surround myself with are all wonderful. I've told you that before, Fraser. I think I've told you that drunk, how awesome you are. We haven't gotten drunk together yet, Ben, so just wait.
I don't drink. So it's probably, I'll use that excuse. But thank you, Trish, for making the time. It's been great to see you 2 to 3 times over the last week. So I hope we'll continue to bump into each other a bit more. But just finally, where can people find you if they want to reach out?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a podcast called Money Talk, Real Talk with my co-host. It's generally for midlife women. We are midlife women, so we talk to midlife women about money and mindset. But otherwise, the website hcis.com.au is if someone happens to be listening and wants to get insurance, that's where you find me. But LinkedIn is where I'm active.
Thank you, Trish.
No worries.
Thank you, Fraser, for coming this week. And we'll get everyone on the next episode.
Thanks. Bye.